So we're setting up a bait site for black bear hunting, and we're in a very thick, dense area. It's dark even in the daytime. So there's a lot of blowdown trees, there's a lot of stumps, there's a lot of rotting wood. It's very thick. The visibility, 30 yards. That's about all you're gonna have as far as being able to see clearly through the trees. So it's very, very thick in here. And that's what bears like. They like that safety and security of being in a dense place. They den up in this area. They feed in this area because they use all the blowdown trees as a source of food, right? All the termites, the ants, the bugs, the grubs, all that stuff is in the soil and in the rotting wood. There's a water source behind us. There's a brook that flows year-round, and in front of us, probably 100 yards ahead of us, there's a small creek, and just to the west of us, we have a field. It's an overgrown apple orchard that's full of wild blackberries. So there's some natural mass to the west, there's some water, and this is a very thick area. Right now, we're in a drainage. So we have a mountain behind us, about a 4,000 foot mountain, and there's about a 4,000 footer straight ahead of us. So we're kind of in a valley. So that has its pros and cons. One of the cons would be the wind, right? So when you're down in a valley, the wind can sometimes swirl, and it often does. And the other part is thermals. We're not quite close enough to the brook or to the creek for it to take our scent down. So we have a 24-foot ladder stand. I've added an extra rung, so a little higher to help get the scent off the ground. You'll notice, if you've never been out bear hunting before, they'll slip in. They'll stand right next to a tree in the shadow. They're well aware of their color, and they'll play the shadows. So if it's a breezy day and you're in your stand, blind, wherever you're hunting from, look at the shadows on the forest floor. When the wind blows, you'll see the leaves and the shadows kind of move back and forth. Once that settles down and those leaves stop moving, check the shadows. If that shadow starts to move, I would glass it, watch it. It could be a black bear. They'll walk from tree to tree and they'll stop and they'll just kind of observe, So they can be very cautious, especially when they know that there's a barrel here, and that magic barrel appears every year around the same time. They know it's not natural. They know it's been placed here by humans, so they're coming in kind of cautious. Now, over time, that first week, some small bears might show up. Towards the end of the week, some larger bears will show up. Week 2 is usually where it's going to start rolling. You might get lucky. It might just get crushed right off the rip. But typically week 2, it's rolling pretty good. Week 2 is usually where your largest bears are going to start showing up. Once they get used to it, they just roll right in. Not to say they won't be cautious, but they get a little more comfortable, a little more used to it being there. They might not be as cautious. The other part I want to discuss is the safety of having a baited bear site. A lot of people talk about, oh, you're going to put food out in the woods and the bears show up and you shoot them because it's just so easy. It's a young man's game. It's a lot of work, and no, it's not easy. And if you don't do the scouting ahead of time to make sure that you're in the right area, good luck. So part about safety that you need to realize is that these barrels are food sources. And there's times where I've been in my ladder stand and I can't get out of the ladder stand. The bears refuse to leave. They stand there and they stare right at me. They know I'm there. I'm spotlighting them with the flashlight. It's getting dark. It's time for me to go home. I'm not in the mood to have a sleepover with black bears. So, yelling out to them, hey bear, get the flashlight out, make a little racket. They'll wander off. They might not go far. They'll wander off far enough to allow you to get out of your stand and exit the woods. So, you know, keep that in mind. Another thing, when you're approaching the barrel, I've had bears huff at me from a distance. In this particular instance, I was up on a mountainside and the bear was bedded down up on the mountainside, and I was actually removing the barrel for the season, and he didn't like it, so he was huffing at me. So they try to do some intimidation tactics from time to time, things that people may not exactly talk about in bear baiting. When you're at the bait barrel, be cautious. There's another time I was bringing bait up the mountainside, and I noticed the barrel was missing. Basically it wasn't upright, it was lying down, and there's a dark shadow beside it, and it stood up and started walking towards me. Not aggressively, but it was more kind of like curious, but that could change. You never know. These are wild animals. They get a wild hair and you're in trouble. So when you're entering that bait site, make sure you're paying attention. You know, you never know. Maybe there's a sow with cubs that's nearby that you didn't see. You never know. So just always come in as if there's a bear on site. When you're at the end of legal shooting, at legal light, whatever you want to call it, and those bears don't want to leave, you're going to have to make a little racket. Get their attention so they mosey off. Sometimes they'll split. They're gone, man. They take off like a white-tailed deer. Other times, the bigger bears or more alpha or aggressive bears, they just kind of stare at you like, what are you doing? Yeah. So you got to get them to kind of move along. So just be careful out there. Keep that in mind. Be safe. And when you're walking into your bait site, you always approach as if there's a bear on site. So be safe. All right, so something I want to point out. I've got the barrel ratchet strapped to a tree. I used to cable it to a tree, but then I found that the cable slices through the plastic barrel. Bears are very strong, they can be very heavy, and man, they just push that barrel over and the cable was cutting right through. So now I've moved to a ratchet strap and it's been working a lot better. They're gonna twist and they're gonna turn that barrel. And when you restock, you're just gonna have to reposition the barrel. Notice the opening of the barrel is not facing the camera. It's off to the side. Facing off to the side, so as the bear approaches the barrel, it's broadside. That's what you want. You want a nice broadside shot. So that's why the opening of the barrel is facing off center. So think about that when you're setting up your sight. So right behind the camera is my ladder stand. My shooting lane comes straight through, right through here. So if that's facing to the side, the bear walks up, you know, he's gonna fiddle around, he's gonna sniff around, whatever, but eventually he's broadside and I can get a double long shot. You may notice there's a lot of logs laying around. You can take these logs and you place them inside the opening of your barrel. You do this, so we place logs inside the opening of the barrel. The reason why, A, it keeps other critters out, the possums, raccoons, you don't want them eating your bait. 2, it keeps rainwater from entering the barrel. Ultimately, it's an indicator. It indicates if your barrel has been hit by a bear. So when a bear rolls in, they just easily remove the logs from the barrel. So as you're walking into your bait site, now you have a visual that indicates, okay, I had a bear on site. It doesn't tell you when, what time of day, or any of that. That's why you have trail cameras, but it does indicate that your barrel has been hit. Now, when you first set up your bait site, you really don't have an idea of which direction these bears are gonna come from. Now, after you do this a year or two, you'll establish a pattern. I know from experience that I have large bears that come from this direction over here. I've got smaller bears that usually come from this direction over here, so I've got them coming left and right. My point being is that you really don't know when you set up your bait site. Are they coming from the left? Are they coming from the right? Or maybe they might come from right behind you. So, you know, set up your bait site based off of the wind direction. If the wind is usually out of the southwest, I want my stand downwind, right? So when the bears are up here by the barrel, they can't smell me. The prevailing wind is out of the southwest, so I'm sitting downwind and the bears are going to be upwind. Think about the wind direction, because even though you're baiting bears, they can still smell you, and if they can smell you, game over. When you're baiting, another thing to think about is, what are you baiting with, right? So people talk about good bait. So what am I using? I use a combination of crushed strawberry Pop-Tarts, cookies, gummy bears, and trail mix. I don't have any chocolate in the trail mix. Now, as the season goes along and my supply gets lower, I might supplement that. I'll mix in some dog food into that, right? So I'll take my premium bear bait with the strawberries and the trail mix and the cookies or what have you. Now I'll mix some dog food into that. There's been years where I've ran out of bait and I've had to go solely with dog food. What I've done is I've gone to Northwood's Bear Products and bought some Cherry Burst. It's 500 times stronger than sugar, and I mean, you get it on your lips when you're spreading it around. Man, it is strong. Mix that in with the dog food. It is edible, it's fine, and I'll spread it around on the outside, and they'll crush the dog food just like they would the pastries. You gotta have food, you gotta provide food in order to keep the bears coming back. Once you run out, and you're out for more than a few days, those bears will wander off, and they're gonna find somebody else's bait site. So keep the food there. Another thing I'd like to point out is that it's not always about food, right? It's not always about the bait that you're placing. You gotta get the scent out there. Vegetable oil mixed with vanilla extract, and you shake it up and you spray it up on the trees. I do that, it works. I've used Northwood's Bear Products. This year I'm gonna roll with some butterscotch. In years past, I've tried their donut, it worked. I've tried the blueberry. The blueberry is one of my favorites. It really draws them in. Bear Bait Solutions, I've tried their rum butter. That smells amazing, by the way, and it works. I've done honey burns, where you place a little honey in a jet boil, bring it to a boil to get a nice white smoke. It carries through the forest. I can't say that that actually works. I do it from time to time. I can't really say that a honey burn is the reason why the bears are coming in. I think it might help, but I don't think that's the only reason they're coming in. I would not base my bear baiting site off of a honey burn. You really got to get the scent out there, and you got to get it scented up. Scent up the leaves, scent up the trees, get it off the ground, get high up on the trees. So when the wind blows, it carries it through the forest. Not on a ground level, but you get it up as high as you can. When you're spreading scent around your bait site, you want to get it up off the ground, so when the wind catches it, it's blowing it through the forest, right? So it's not always about the bait. You can use a lot of different things for bait, but really you want to catch their nose. They might not be able to smell your bait in the barrel as easy as when you start squirting butterscotch or blueberry, or if it's cherry Kool-Aid, whatever you're using. That also brings me to my next point. You get the bait inside the barrel, you plug the hole with the logs, and then you can take vegetable oil mixed with some Gold Rush from Northwood's Bear Attractant, mix it, splash it around your bait site. The bears walk through here, it adheres to the pads of their feet. As they scurry off through the forest, it leaves a scent trail, right? A network of trails wherever they walk. Other bears cross that trail, you follow their nose right back to where your bait site is, wash and repeat. And any other critter, coyotes, raccoons, possums, whatever, as they walk through, same thing's gonna happen, right? So it just creates more traffic to your barrel, which is what you want. The more you have, more opportunity you have, right? And you can be more selective about the bear that you take. Scent, that's where it is. You can worry about bait all you want, but really you want the scent. You gotta have the bait for the bears to eat, and you gotta keep it stocked so they keep coming back. But you gotta have that scent out there. So every time I fill the barrel, I will spray some scent. So it's kind of it's a twofer. You gotta have one with the other. So once you have your bait site set up, what happens now? Put the bait in, oil on the ground, you've scented everything, you got your cameras on, you're ready to roll. Usually, if you're in a good spot, within 24 to 48 hours, you're gonna have a bear on site. Oftentimes, from my experience, you're gonna have a smaller bear come in at first. Usually it's gonna be a young boar. They're very curious, very mischievous as well. My point being is that sometimes your bait site gets off to a slow roll, a slow start, right? Just give it time. You got to let it soak, man. Get that scent out there. Keep the food out there. Keep going. and eventually it will start to take off. And like I said earlier in the video, week 2 is usually where it starts to roll. Week 1 is good, you're just opening it, but week 2, they get comfortable with it. The other bears have caught on, and I'm telling you, that's when it starts to roll. So week 2, week 3. Now, as the season goes along, our baiting season here is September 1st through October 5th. The activity, as you get closer to October, starts to peter off. They start to look for denning opportunities. If it starts out kind of slow, stay with it, and usually week 2 is where it really starts to roll. Get the scent out there.